Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Weeb from the Winnipeg Free Press. Together we are Kenny and Renny. This is the Kenny and Renny post-game show after another loss where the Jets couldn't hold the lead. Don't come away with any points in this one. Lather, rinse, repeat. Remember when we used to say that about the Jets last year? Lather, rinse, repeat, because their games were just so unbelievably consistent in their execution and their results and their outcome. It's gone that way. Literally, just kind of everything has gone exact in the opposite direction. Last year it was top of the league, and this year it's, consistently driving them in a different situation. Let's hop into the old Toyota here. Hop in, put on your seatbelt. Let's go on the opening drive for Jim Pattison Toyota on Region. And I'm going to tell you this: Renny gets a lot of things right on this podcast. So many things right that's why they call me Right on Renny. That, or when I was young and I used to go to house parties, someone would put on a good tune and I'd turn and I'd say, right on. That was kind of like my Matthew McConaughey. He's got his all right, all right, all right. And me, like I'm assuming a lot of small town Manitoba boys had, was right on. That's what you said. Someone said something that was cool, right on. Someone, you agreed with someone, right on. Right on, Renny. Maybe that's it. Or maybe it's because I just seem to get a lot of things right. And I feel that way today because there was just so many messages that I got as that game was going on of people talking about my analysis in that last game, where I talked about, you want to know why the Winnipeg Jets are getting consistently bad results in spite of looking like a great team. Hold on a sec. Let's just look at this game tonight. First period, I was preparing for this podcast to come on here and have a bunch of people saying, I think there's a chance, kind of thing, because look how good they looked against the Edmonton Oilers. But what did I say? What did I say in the Toyota, Jim Pattison Toyota opening drive, Jim Pattison Toyota on Region opening drive? Yeah, before the last game, the Winnipeg Jets can look like a world beater, but they can't do it for 60 straight minutes. And what happened on this night? The Winnipeg Jets had an absolute unbelievable first period. That said, even as unbelievable as that first period was, the Winnipeg Jets should have probably considered themselves to be lucky where they were. They got 2 goals that probably aren't typical goals. Pearson's goal is, that's not a snipe or anything like that. That's poor goaltending. So that's a freebie, for the Winnipeg Jets on that one. And then I thought at this point it was like, okay, there's one of the old hockey gods bounces on Josh Morrissey's goal, throws it, redirects to a fray in front, redirects again, somehow changes speed, goes rolling right in the net, the goalie not noticing it. Winnipeg Jets had the kind of bounces that you are looking for to get you out of a snap, and they got them. And then basically until they pulled the goalie, mustered another 3 shots. 3 shots for a good chunk of the rest of that game. At one point, they'd been outshot 18-0 in one stretch. And it just got me to thinking back about before I did the Toyota opening drive, Jim Pattison Toyota opening drive in the last show, I had thought, I think I need to, the way that the Jets keep losing this, in spite the fact, and I'd said it over and over again, it does not look like your typical last place team. Your typical last place team doesn't pull off periods like the Winnipeg Jets did in the first period of this game against the Edmonton Oilers. But I needed to kind of take the filter of looking and saying, this is what this team is capable of, and take that filter off and just be like, this is what this team is. And that's where I kind of broke it down and crunched things in my head and landed on what I landed on last game. The Winnipeg Jets can't put together a full 60 minutes because I don't think their roster is able to execute the work level that it takes to do that. But the other thing I said in that last show was that when other teams elevate their game to the very top, the Winnipeg Jets can't keep track. And is that not what this game looked like tonight? Like, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong that when Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl started going and elevated their game, that the Winnipeg Jets just could not follow. 18-0, a stretch of time there, where the Edmonton Oilers had 18 shots and the Jets had 0. You don't deserve to win games like that. You don't. So you I hear all these people saying they deserve a better fate. No, the Winnipeg Jets didn't deserve a better fate on this night. They were lucky to be in a position that they lost that game 4-3, so they can continue putting forth a narrative that we keep losing tight games and we're just a razor's edge away from this. It's not the case. The Winnipeg Jets can't hold leads. They can't hold leads. And they can't score their way back into games when they don't have the lead. This game had all of it. But that tells you something. Because if you can't hold a lead, it means as the game wears on, the other team gets better and gets better than you. And they score again, and then they win, and the game is over. Or it says that when the other team has the lead, you are not able to elevate to a point where you are on top of them. The Winnipeg Jets are consistent. And if I've ever talked about, the fool's gold of this whole thing, the Winnipeg Jets, if anyone was thinking the Winnipeg Jets deserve a better fate over their last 10 games, and if you just switch a couple of those scores and a bounce goes here and a bounce goes there, all of a sudden they're here, and this is the team that we're talking about making a run for, the last and final playoff spot. I've been updating the thing in my head. 91 points now is probably the minimum that the Winnipeg Jets could get to make it into the playoffs. That would probably have them be in a tie. Who knows where that would take them. But 91 points would require them to have a 700 points percentage going forward. 700. This is not the Winnipeg Jets having hard luck. This is the Winnipeg Jets losing games because when it matters most, from game to game, their opposition elevates and they cannot follow. It's as simple as that. Right on. Renny was right on his analysis last game. And I'm just going to trot that one. Okay. Does it mean that I'm not trying? No, I'm hammering home a point. I'm not just taking a facsimile of the last game and putting it in here, but it is to a degree a facsimile game of a Winnipeg Jets team that when it matters most either can't score or can't defend. And that's why they are losers of 11 straight games. That, for me, is the Jim Pattison Toyota on Regent opening drive, ladies and gentlemen. Right before we bring in Ken here, let's tell you all about finding the right vehicle. It can feel like a big decision, but the team at Jim Pattison Toyota on Regent make it easy. They'll help you find the perfect fit from their wide selection of new and pre-owned Toyotas. And this January, it's time to Toyota Jim Pattison Toyota on Regent. Finance the new 2026 BZXLE all-electric SUV from $158 weekly for 60 months at 1.49% with $5,599 down payment. But hurry, the offer ends February 2nd. Visit Jim Pattison Toyota on Regent, and you can take a test drive today. All right, time to bring in the man with the best music in the business, folks. Here comes Kenny. Couple things here, Kenny. I don't know what's going on with the software and why it would mute us coming out of the music. My goodness, this is driving me nuts. I'm going for it right off the bat here and handing out the Flame and Comfort hot take of the game. This is it right here. Fast Eddie Winnipeg says, and let's be serious, Scheif must shave his mustache. It brings up a point, Ken. I don't know how it's possible that Mark Scheifele has been rocking that mustache and this has been happening to the Winnipeg Jets. I'm not saying that he's, a superstitious player. Clearly he's not, but I don't know how in the search to turn things over for the Winnipeg Jets, Mark Scheifele hasn't thought about shaving that mustache. That is absolutely unbelievable. And that is a really good point brought up that earns the hot take brought to you by Flame and Comfort, Manitoba's premier supplier of fireplaces, wood stoves, inserts, and everything hearth related. After 50 years heating up your world, Flame and Comfort has moved on down to 1465 St. James Street where you will find it is one of the most impressive showrooms in Western Canada. You don't need your hot takes to keep that warm feeling inside. Visit Flame and Comfort. They will take care of it for you. And Ken, Fast Eddie Winnipeg with the fastest ever Flame and Comfort award. So good job, Fast Eddie Winnipeg. And got to say, Ken, love the shirt. Love what you're doing there. And I'd like to give you credit for it, but you probably don't deserve it. But I know who does deserve it is our main man down at Vittorio Rossi. You know what to do. If you want to look like Ken and have these like bold choices that pop, like Ken is popping tonight, you head on down to Corden Avenue, walk into Vittorio Rossi, loudly proclaim Kenny and Renny sent you, ask for Frankie and the boys, and they will do you upright. Ken, my goodness, 11 straight games. I was thinking to myself last year when the Winnipeg Jets on multiple occasions had 11 game winning streaks, what that says about how good a team is. Does it say equally how bad the Winnipeg Jets are?
Well, certainly in the sense of finding, I mean, again, I can't say this is a new way to lose because we've seen this movie, 3 times here in the last succession.
Yeah.
Three in the last 4 anyway.
It's
3 in the last 4.
These are reruns.
This is Who's the Boss reruns if we're going into the Tony Danza era here. But
okay, well, we know who the boss was tonight.
Indeed, yes. So it's honestly baffling, Sean, because as you mentioned, I mean, the Jets gave their best shot in the first period, and yes, there were some rewards, but there were rewards for going to the net, Sean. I mean, the Josh Morrissey goal is deflected on the way to the net. It hits Spencer Stastny's stick. Then it hits Pickard's body and rolls in, right? So, like you said, that's a bounce the Jets have not been getting. The Tanner Pearson goal is a smart play by Pearson, but this game. Our buddy Mark Spector.
Yeah.
Well, it's that, but also Bouchard played it horribly. All you have to do is hit and pin there. He just turned away and then let him walk out. But then what does Bouchard do? Oh, nothing but other than just delivering a massive power play goal as the game goes on. So anyways, in terms of the Jets play, I mean, how do you not follow up the first period with a momentum builder? Like you said, they barely got any shots for a lengthy stretch of time again. And of course, some of that has to do with the Oilers dictating play. But Sean, what we've seen from the Jets, we haven't seen enough counter punching from the Jets. Not only are they not, imposing their will on the game, they're allowing the opposition to impose their will, and they're unable to push back. Like it's not a lack of pushback, but they're not able to. Not only are they having trouble withstanding the push from the opposition, the ability to get the ball moving back up the hill is just not there. So of course it's frustrating for them. I mean, we saw it in the room after the game and talking with Neil Pionk and Tanner Pearson and Scott O'Neill as well. I mean, we know there's frustration there. For those who didn't see it, I mean, Neil Pionk is always a pretty direct and to the point person, but Sean, it was 6 questions and the answers only totaled 105. Not the answers, the entire avail only got to 105. And again, sorry, and it's not that the questions were short.
I just want to say this as a broadcast professional where timing is everything. Like every time you see me going on TV in a broadcast, there's someone in my ear counting down saying like, you got 15 seconds to get this in. You know what I mean? 15 seconds. Like it's
they're good clips.
Right. But I mean, like a minute is quite often like on a Wednesday night. If you're seeing me next Wednesday doing Ottawa and the New York Rangers, that'll be my open 1 minute, right? So if you see me get on there and talk blah blah blah, like it can be hard. Now I get 30 seconds on a hockey night in Canada. Right. Kyle Bukauskas will throw it to me. I'll throw it to Sean McKenzie or Carolyn Cameron or something like that. And you get 30 seconds. It is hard, Ken, to get a lot of information into 30 seconds. It's tight. It's a tight little window to get some stuff across. And a minute-long interview is ridiculously short, unbelievably short, because for so much of that, it's the other person asking the question. So that is like 6-7 people tag teaming together. And Ken,
Yeah.
I mean, you gave it the old college try. You must have thrown 5 rapid fire questions back to back there, but the Gatling gun wasn't hitting on that one.
No, my target was missed several times, I guess. But anyways, again, I'm not knocking Neil Pionk. I'm just saying that in this quest for answers, I mean, we're trying to ask questions, in a different way some nights, but that's just to say that the frustration is obviously there. I mean, yes, we're still hearing players talk about belief and all those things, but I thought that Tanner Pearson was pretty direct also, Sean, saying like, this is a veteran team. You can't be making these kind of errors. He wasn't pointing fingers at anyone, but I mean, these are plays that can't happen. And that, we know these are world-class players on both teams. But Sean, I mean, the McDavid goal is a great example. Scott Arniel has been saying for, I want to say, at least a month, and probably going back to November where this kind of downward spiral began. When the pressure points in the game elevate, the Jets are not reaching that level. They're not answering in the big moments. And in this situation, we're not even saying the Jets need to score another goal to extend the lead. You just have to defend smartly and not give up a 3-on-2 when Chris Knobloch pushes the nuclear option and says, hey, down by a pair of goals, how about you, Leon, and you, Connor, go over the boards with Zach Hyman and see if you can make this a 1-goal game. The Jets can't give up an odd man rush there, Sean, and they can't over pursue, and they can't not back check hard enough. These are all things that are we talked all year about uncharacteristic play. These are plays that are happening too often. This is the devil is in the details type of scenario that the coaching staff has been lamenting. It's very simple. And again, defending Connor McDavid is not simple. He's the fastest player in the game. He's the most explosive. I mean, Nathan McKinnon is also explosive. We know that. But Connor's ability to get to speed and then blow past guys is incredible. But Sean, you played some defense. Neil Pionk doesn't need to over pursue and drift over. Josh Morrissey has the left-hand side covered. And this is what happens when you're fighting it confidence-wise and haven't been able to nail down games. Again, I'm not pinning this on Pionk, but he needed to stay with McDavid there. And again, Kyle Connor's back check is not good enough. Anyone who watched the video, Kyle's not going to want to watch that video in the video room tomorrow, Sean. That's something the players don't like to see, but it happened. And you saw after that in the third period, Kyle had a couple back checks that were, obviously showing his speed and ability to get back on the play. But again, I'm not taking him off the hook here, but Kyle thinks McDavid will be covered by Pionk, and then Pionk kind of over pursues and drifts over to past the middle, and then Connor's there by himself, and the pass gets across. And of course, the guy who's the hottest player in the NHL gets a chance like that and buries it. I mean, that's what happens when you're a winning team that is playing winning hockey and feeling confident about your game, right? So this doesn't boil down to one play, and that's why the game turned. But there's no doubt that being a 1-goal game completely changed the complexion going into the third period. Instead of having, again, I'm not saying the third period would have been comfortable if the Jets were down 2, because guess what? The Oilers are going to crank up their game in the third regardless, but getting it to a 1-goal game totally can change the complexion, and it put the Jets even more on their heels than they were to begin with at the end of the period. So anyways, that's just another example of things that doesn't happen in boa constrictor Jets land, but that land is a faraway land right now.
Okay. I'm going to counter what you're saying there, and I'm going to come to the defense of Neil Pionk and that. I'm going to use it. I'm going to do it using the very last thing that you said in boa constrictor Winnipeg Jets land, because what they did was they suffocated and they squeezed their opponents, and that's what made them so successful. And I'm watching this play, Ken, and what happens in this play, it starts out at the opposite end of the ice, and Kyle Connor is right there, right beside Connor McDavid, okay? And as they head up ice, Connor McDavid Kyle Connor lets Connor McDavid drift behind him, and he turns to defend the pass. And at the same time, Alex Iafallo goes to attack. This is all happening in the opposition end. Alex Iafallo goes to try and cut off the pass. Mark Scheifele goes into the middle of the ice to try and cut off the pass. And what ends up happening is Neil Pionk is over on the other side of the ice because the Oilers are overloading the other side of the ice. So what you're seeing in that situation is, yes, Josh Morrissey is defending the puck carrier, but right beside the puck carrier is the second Edmonton Oilers man. I don't know who it's who. It's okay. So he's got to be there to close off the gap. So it can't be just a simple drop pass. And Roslovic runs right into it. Now, I get your argument is going to be, well, McDavid is the most dangerous player on the ice, so you should be going to that guy. But Kyle Connor, that's his guy at the start of that. What this is an example of it's the Winnipeg Jets just not being on the way they were last year, because what they're trying to do here is defend how they did last year. And how they defended is they just did not let passes go through, and they snuffed out plays in the offensive zone. That's what they're trying to do here. Now, Scott Arniel's not going to be happy about this. It's not, he's saying there's a different time and a different place for this, but this is just the Winnipeg Jets not being able to play how they played last year. This is them and their muscle memory trying to play this like they did and had so much success with it last year, and it doesn't work out. So I don't see this as all being on Neil Pionk. He's
neither do I.
Who's looking like he's the most dangerous guy there. This is a breakdown all around. And it's because the system that I've talked about of the Winnipeg Jets, last year it was tight as a drum. And when that system is tight as a drum, it's tough to beat. And when it's not, it's a little loose. And the difference between the Winnipeg Jets, if you need a good example of it, if you need an example of the Winnipeg Jets when the system worked last year, think of games 1 and 2 against the St. Louis Blues. And then when that system got opened up a little bit, think of games 3 and 4. And when they pulled it back together, think of game 5. And then think of what happened in game 6. The Winnipeg Jets, when the system is not working, it's leaky. It's bad. It doesn't work. And so this is just, to me, a little bit of a microcosm. I know it looks like one guy. The mistake made here is that the Winnipeg Jets are trying to kill the play and maybe get one last scoring opportunity on net. But Ken, we saw them do that all the time last year when they were at their very best. They're trying to be who they were, but they can't reach who they were. And that's been the case all year. And it's been the case especially outside of that line on the other lines where they've lost their mojo by losing some other players.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right. Connor McDavid is the most dangerous player on the ice. I'm not saying that Pionk has to be standing beside McDavid, but he went too far over to where Roslovic was.
Okay, but if Roslovic gets the puck, then he's in no man's land.
He was already in no man's land, which is how the puck got passed.
No, anyways, he's not in no man's land. He's in a position to defend Jack Roslovic should Jack Roslovic get the puck. But Connor McDavid gets behind his guy and is now all alone. It's a 3-on-2. You got to choose one way or another. So maybe he chose wrong, but maybe in that situation, what you do see, Ken, is with him in no man's land, he chooses at some point to try and kill the pass as it makes its way across. And he gets his stick on it. He redirects it. And Connor McDavid, if that's not Connor McDavid, the best player in the world, that pass probably doesn't get handled. It does get handled because he's amazing and he gets his foot on it and kicks it up. But I see a situation there where this is a complete and full team breakdown.
Oh, agreed.
Of them trying to be what they were last year. And that line should be able to. It should be able to, but this is, I don't know. I mean, it's not executed well. When you're off, you're off. Maybe that's what you say about that, because that line should be able to do it. But to some other people's point, maybe it should have been Adam Lowry's line out there. Maybe it should have been a line that was not trying to score, or if they were trying to score, to just cram it down their throat and push it into the net. But I just see that goal to me is just so much of the Jets trying to be who they were last year. And when that system is just a little bit loose, it's not a good system, and the puck's in the back of your net.
And again, to be clear, I don't need Pionk to be on this side of the hash marks. I just think that if he's a little bit more to the center, like in the slot, then you can ask Scheifele to catch Roslovic before he unloads on a drop pass. And yes, Connor needs to be 2 strides better for sure. But again, McDavid's the fastest guy in the league, so it's not surprising that he beats his guy to the back post. But regardless, I just don't think it was played particularly, again, as crisply as is required. And Sean, we talk about awareness and situational awareness and time on the clock and all those things. You can't be giving up a 3-on-2 to begin with. That means a better F3, regardless of who's doing the chasing and who's doing the, trying to direct traffic, better communication. Again, all those things are just a little bit off. And then it becomes a problem for everyone that's on the ice, because as you mentioned, it's not just one guy's fault. But I think that if one guy had played it slightly differently, they could have transitioned the other way to catch a trailer if that drop pass was required. That way, that's not a cross ice back post kind of a play. So
that's a good point. And Matthew Hyman says right here, I'd rather him try to defend the front of the net. And there's value to that, right? It's like, okay, well, fine, give it to Roslovic. Maybe he gets caught, whatever. But it just goes to show. It goes to my point about when the system is loose, it's not as defined. When the system is defined, every guy knows where they need to go. But what we're talking about, Matthew Hyman here says, I'd rather him do this. What Matthew's language is properly pointing out is, for him, it's a choice. Do I go for this guy or do I go for this guy? And what the Jets did so well with their system last year is there was no choice. There was a right answer. This is your guy. You go to this guy. And too often this year, Jets players, because the system is loose, too many times they're being forced to make a choice. He made that choice. He covered it off. And right now, Ken, if he gets a little bit more on that pass and stops it, we're giving him credit for the Johnson Group got you covered play of the game, because he went out and he had both Jack Roslovic covered off and stopped the pass going across to McDavid that could have been in the back of the net. We're praising this right now, but the fact of the matter, he's put into a situation where he needs to make a choice. It means he's 75% on this guy and 75% on this guy. It's enough gray area for it to end up in the back of your net. It's just, I'm not willing to say that this was him making an outlandish mistake. I'm willing to say that this is, and I know you're not saying that, Ken. I'm just saying, I'm willing to say this is just emblematic of Jets players getting caught in between over and over and over again this year. It happens all the time. It happens every game for the Winnipeg Jets. And so for me, a lot of times people want it to be an easy answer. They want it to be, this guy didn't play it right, and now it's in the back of your net. They want it to be, the Oilers goaltender should have been hugging the post, and that doesn't go in. And there's that is an easy one. But to your degree, there's a little bit of how Boucher played it as well. But the Winnipeg Jets are just constantly getting caught in between on defense, and that play, I think, Ken, is just perfectly emblematic of it.
Agreed, and that's what I mean. I'm not saying that Pionk made an egregious error. I'm just saying that by drifting, a couple feet, it sort of changed the dynamic of how the play kind of broke down. But I mean, to your point again, last year that doesn't happen because the F3 has already erased Roslovic before he gets over the blue line, turning the 3-on-2 into a 3-on-3, and then it's just a simple sort out. So yeah, I mean, I agree completely, but it's just one of those things that, like you said, when you're looking for things that have gone wrong, and for me, this is an example of trying to do a little bit too much, right? I mean, we know that Pionk has done an exceptional job against McDavid in the past. And Sean, Leon Draisaitl was super quiet in this game, but he makes a perfect pass to McDavid in that situation when a perfect play is required. Scott O'Neill talked about it. Your best players got to be your best players. And in that stretch of time, the two best players on the Oilers connected for a goal that was essential in them winning this hockey game.
Okay, I want to get to Arneal. Before we do that, I'll say this. The Jets have a lot to shoot for when it comes to trying to tighten up that system. You can shoot for growth with Cambrian Wealth. Grow your wealth today to reach tomorrow's big goals. Cambrian's Wealth team can assist. Invest in your future self your way. Our pals at Cambrian Wealth give straight up investing advice, and advice that you can actually understand and help you make a strong financial play to get there. Book an appointment at cambrian.mb.ca. And Ken, can you give Sweet Lou a shout out?
You bet, folks. For realty needs you'd like to have met, contact our main man, Lou Ferlin, at Royal LePage Dynamic Realty, 204-791-9971, or at the office, 204-989-5000. His email is lou@louferlin.ca. That's L-O-U at LOUFURLAN.ca. Lou Ferlin, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of the community, including this podcast.
Okay, I just wanted to, before we move on to Arnie, Darth Skater says, so, okay, they can't do last year's system. What can they do? This is a good question, but it's also this assumption that teams can just turn and be whatever they want to be. There's a lot of planning to being a really good team. Like, if you're a senior hockey team, maybe even if you're a junior A hockey team, although I think that's getting different and different, you just add good players, right? If you want to win in a multi-billion-dollar league, you have to have a plan. You got to go in and you have to have a plan. And so you have to say, this is the kind of identity that we're going to have. These are the kind of players that we're going to go in and get to play that system and fit that identity and all of these kind of things. And I think what Darth Skater here, just going to bring this back up, needs to, the one thing that we've said before on this, and I'm going to reiterate again, is a lot of times when you look around the league at teams that aren't succeeding, this is exactly what it is. They're trying to play a system and they may not have the right guys for that system, or maybe the system doesn't necessarily work. And that's what we've said this a million times, when teams change over coaches, they're quite often changing their system. Someone on the outside says, listen, I think you can win. You'd have to do this. This is the deal with this. The Winnipeg Jets are trying to play a system last year that they made changes. Those changes aren't working. So what does not happen, most definitely, is a coach and his coaching staff in the middle of the year say, ooh, it didn't really work. Let's design an entire new system that fits this new group that we have here. Like, to be a successful team in the NHL, a lot has to come together. And my point of this is, every once in a while, there's just a really, really great team. Like, I'll use a perfect example of it. The 2017 Pittsburgh Penguins were a team that was outside of the playoffs, and they had a coach that was just basically trying to get them to play a very, very, very rigid system. Sorry, 2016, because did they win back-to-back, Ken? Yes, they did. 16 and 17. 2016. And Sullivan takes over that team, and they're outside of the playoffs, which at the time seemed it was around Christmas time. And then they went on a tear. They go on and they win. And that one was fascinating for me because I had a good conversation with Sullivan, and he just basically said the guys wanted to skate. They were sick of being told, I go here, you go here, I do this. So what happened was there was a really, really, really good team hiding underneath an oppressive system at that time. And then what ended up happening is you got a guy who came in and said, I just want to free you up. Okay. So we're going to take that system that you're running and we're going to keep it doing, we're going to keep a lot of the tenets of it, but we're also just going to let you play a little bit more free flowing. And that ended up working, right? You have to ask yourself, is your team the 2016 Pittsburgh Penguins? And can you just say, oh, let's just do this little tweak and let them roll and kind of wing it and go out and do it? Is that who the Winnipeg Jets are? I would suggest they're not. And I would suggest the vast majority of teams that get themselves in this position are not, because at some point a super, super skilled roster would not be falling the way that the Winnipeg Jets are. So it's a way of saying you would put yourself in a lot of trouble if, as Darth Skater is somewhat suggesting here, they can't do last year's system. What can they do? Say, okay, let's scrap everything and build an entirely new system. If the Winnipeg Jets had a really, really, really great team that just needed a different system and then would go on a run, it would be worth doing that. It would be worth firing. It would be worth finding the right guy and doing this. But do you really think that this team's the case? Because if they're not, then what happens is you fire your coach, you bring in a new guy, you try a new system, and if your roster isn't good enough to make that system sing, well, now you've changed everything and you've tried something different. So now that it's not working, go fire that guy and bring the next guy in now. And now see if he can create a system that kind of works. Changing up your system is an absolute emergency level scenario. And it does work sometimes. I'm going to say it does work, but you have to bet on your roster and say, is this roster good enough to be that? Because otherwise you end up being a team like the other side of that is being the Buffalo Sabres, who year after year get a new coach and it doesn't work, and get a new coach and it doesn't work out. These aren't easy solutions. A lot of people just think because it happened once with the 2016 Pittsburgh Penguins, or it happened again with the 2021 Montreal Canadiens, that you're going to do it and it's going to go like that. It is not that simple. Sometimes it works, but it's not as simple as you're making it sound. Okay, Ken, Arnie.
Sorry, we need a. Oh, sorry. I want to go pristine
Sure,
roofing wake up call for Vladislav Nemestikov today, Sean. We'll get into Zhilkin later, but we talked about this before. 0 points in 18 games, 1 assist in 29. Again, I'm not saying Vladislav Nemestikov needs to sit for an extended period. In fact, I think there's a case to be made that Scott Arniel should try Nemesnikov with Lowry and Morgan Barron in an effort to get a bit more speed on that checking line, with Nino Niederreiter struggling a bit coming out of the healthy scratch scenario. But again, sitting out today was definitely a pristine roofing wake-up call for Vlad Nemestikov.
No doubt it is, and I'll finish this off in just a second. But I mean, it's only one game. It's only one game, right? So I'm not discounting the idea of bringing up young, fast guys and let them go. But the Jets did that tonight. They had an opportunity. They sat an older veteran that people had been clamoring and asking to be, sat and let's do this. Just do some moves. Bring up a guy from the farm team. I think Danny Zhilkin played great in this game. We'll dig into a little bit more, but he didn't play like you're asking a lot if you're expecting that player to come in and play his first NHL game and turn the tide, right? Like this is what it would look like. Now, maybe some people are ready to wave the white flag on the season and say, let's just get guys like this in and get them some games underneath them. That's a different conversation. But for all the people who are like, oh, we're not fast, bring in a young, fast guy. That'll solve everything. I think tonight was a pretty good example that Zhilkin, I'm not saying he played bad, but it's not like he was, a guy who walked into the lineup that you were like, when you saw Brandon Tanev early on with his Jets career where he would just make things happen, and Mason Appleton or Rasmus Kupari at times, guys like that. Anyway, you are right. Nemestikov clearly being given the pristine roofing and siding wake-up call. That means it's time to give North End Rick the pristine roofing wake-up call at 204-981-6289. He's the guy you want down at your place to check out all your roofing, siding, and exterior needs. You can also call Pristine Roofing directly at 204-237-7663. Give your home the pristine roofing and siding wake-up call. You will be glad that you did. All right, Ken. What did you think of? We're going to kind of launch into Arniel's take on that and all those things. But what did you think of the way he handled his press conference afterwards?
In the morning,
talking about the lineup or post after the game.
Oh, I mean, I think this is a frustrated coach who's trying to be see some positives, but also still trying to coax his team to provide a bit more. I mean, just on what you were saying, I mean, Danny Zhilkin, Sean, we saw it in the morning. I mean, the guy's grinning ear to ear. I mean, this is a guy who, moved to Canada at the age of 9 years old to try to get to the NHL and finally made it. You saw he had this great energy going into the game, rookie hot lap, Pearson's goal, grinning ear to ear. But I mean, the Jets did get a bit of a boost, but they just didn't have anything going in the last two periods. So, I mean, it's very difficult for any coach. Of course, people are looking at the coach when a team goes through a 10-game losing skid. I think there's lots of frustration there, but I think that Scott Arniel is handling it as best he can in terms of his interactions in the post game. I mean, we know he's disappointed. This guy hates losing, Sean. We talked about it before, and nothing worse for a coach than seeing his team lose 11 in a row. But I mean, he also knows there's a game tomorrow, and he needs his guys to just be a little bit better. I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot of definitive answers on that, but I mean, I'm hearing a guy that still believes in his team, but he also knows that it hasn't been good enough. And the only way it's going to get good enough better, or the only way it's getting better for this group is if they start executing a little bit better. And again, some people can say that starts with, lineup changes and whatever else. But to your point, making a change, a couple forwards, they added plenty of speed. but it was still the same result, which is probably making it a little bit more frustrating for the head coach as well, and for the players, obviously.
So you had talked about Neil Pionk earlier on, and Neil Pionk just clearly did not want to talk, and probably was feeling his role in that goal at the end of the period. And if I'm being honest, Ken, the way that Scott Arniel talked about the breakdowns there, probably heard about it and probably is stinging a little bit from that. And maybe sometimes, maybe heard something about it and is thinking what I'm thinking, that maybe Neil Pionk, which I had heard a whole bunch of people commented to me about Neil Pionk, maybe he's feeling the same thing that I am seeing out there, and that he's like, well, why is this all on me? I'm over covering this off when that guy's supposed to have that area of the ice covered off, and so on and so forth. But one thing that I thought was kind of, like a Kevin Cheveldayoff type pass on answering the question is I'd asked him about the idea of how you got your first period that looks like that, and then the next couple of periods after look like that. And he said, well, he thinks that it's mental, right? And to me, that was a bit of a cop-out, right? Because to me, it feels like like a mental mistake is something that just kind of like pops off here or there, right? Like, oh man, I went out and I accidentally did this, or I meant to do that, or I'm around the house looking for my phone and it's in my hand the whole time and I waste 10 minutes doing that. That's a mental mistake, right? But to me, that doesn't explain the lack of pushback that you see for 40 minutes in a game. I mean, if your brain is shutting off for 40 minutes, well, then you don't have a hope, right? I thought that was a little bit of a pass on that question there. When I proposed the idea of the suggestion of that's what was happening out there, you could almost see right off the bat that Scott Arniel was like there wasn't an eye roll, but there was a definite, like, he took the deep breath and it was like, that's not it. That's what I felt from that. I don't know if you took that away from his response to that, but he went into a long explanation of the things that he thought went wrong in that. And I have to say, and there's a lot of people who aren't going to like this, because there's a lot of people in the chat room who are saying, fire the coach and do this and do that and all this kind of stuff. I've said it on this podcast before. I don't know how you knee-jerk fire the President's Trophy winning coach who is one of the finalists for the Jack Adams Trophy last year, when it's pretty clear that the personnel moves, which are not his job, are a big reason for what's happening here. I honestly thought, Ken, that it's hard to strike a tone when you've lost 11 straight games.
For sure.
Scott Arniel walked into the room and clearly he's not happy. But what I don't see out of Scott Arniel is I don't see him pouting, which you could see coaches going in that direction. I don't see him taking unnecessary pot shots at his players.
Right.
I don't see him overdoing it. Like every once in a while, I think he's trying to build up the team and be like, oh, we were pretty close there tonight, or that's the game I thought we should have. I don't see him overdoing it. I think he's doing a good job of being a realist, but more on that, I think he's doing a good job of saying we're not taking excuses to get out of this. And I think he's doing a good job of holding his team accountable. It's hard to see it. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm seeing things that aren't there. But I actually see a coach that I think, given the circumstances, and people can talk all they want about, the coaching decisions that are being made that have them, having lost 11 straight games, that's a debate to be had. No doubt about it. But I'll say this, the tone that he is striking, I'm sure it's tough when you're losing, tough to keep players engaged, all those different kind of things. I think that Scott Arniel is doing just about as good as he possibly can with the tone, at least the one that we are seeing in front of the microphone.
For sure. And honestly, I'm not trying to change the subject, but I think, to build on your point, I think that carries over to what we heard in the morning when he was asked about how tough and the tough part of the job and scratching veteran players. I mean, Scott Arniel played in the NHL, and near the end of his career, he was one of those guys that got healthy scratched before he went down, and still played a bunch of good years, in the minors for the Manitoba Moose and some other teams. You can tell by the sound of his voice, like, some people thinking that Scott Arniel is somehow enjoying the fact that he's going up to Nino Niederreiter and a 1,000-game NHL player and saying, hey man, you haven't been good enough. You're a healthy scratch today. He's taking no joy in that. He wants Nino Niederreiter to succeed. He doesn't want Vlad Nemestikov going more than a quarter of a season without scoring after having 6 in his first 10 games. He doesn't want Gus Nyquist, looking like a shell of his former self at times. That's not the way coaches operate. Certainly not the way Scott Arniel wants things to go for the team or for the individual players. So again, he's obviously wearing those things. And I mean, he flat out said it. It sucks to have to sit those guys. But Sean, as he also pointed out, it's pro sports, and this didn't just come out of the blue. This isn't a guy, playing 1,000 great games and suddenly having one bad one and saying, by the way, I'm sorry if this embarrasses you, but you're not in the lineup today. I mean, that's just not the way that he feels about it. But it's also a reality that what's been happening isn't working, and naturally you want to try a few other things. And I mean, again, we get it. Players are frustrated. They should be frustrated. They lost 11 in a row. You should be pissed off about it. But you can't just sit around and be pissed off about it and not try to, fix it or do other things that can help you play better.
Well, and here's the deal. So I've got a whole bunch of people who are saying fire the coach and do this and do that and all those kind of things. Okay, so if you're going to fire someone and it's not just like, I'm a fan, I'm at home, I'm angry, someone's head has to roll. My guess is a lot of the people who are saying that are the same people who have said, waive this guy, do this guy, blah, blah, blah. Again, you can have your knee-jerk reactions and do that, but you should be making moves that you think are going to solve the problem. So you have to ask yourself, is the problem Scott Arniel? Did this team go in the direction it did because of Scott Arniel? You have to ask yourself that question. You have to ask yourself, if a new coach came in, are things going to turn around right away? And why are you going to firing the coach first? And I'm not saying that the folks aren't asking for this, but why aren't you going to, why wouldn't you be expecting the Jets to make a move first, or that they should have made a move 2 months ago? And are you sure that because they didn't make moves 2 months ago, now you're just at the stage where it's like, well, just fire the coach because it's too late to do anything anyway? I guess what I'm saying is there's a whole bunch of people out there who I think are making those calls there. And I'm not saying stand pat. I'm not saying do nothing. But what I am saying is just think of what you're saying. Is it the coach? Is it the roster? Like I've said this before, and I've been very clear on this. I think it's the roster. So I think that if you want to fix this problem, the first thing you would have to do is tweak the roster. That's not on Scott Arniel. So that's my opinion. Fine. But if you can point to me all the egregious coaching mistakes that have had the Winnipeg Jets lose as many games as they've had, then there you go. Like if you take a look at it and people talk about the system, well, the Winnipeg Jets played the system in the first period tonight and they looked brilliant. And I had a whole bunch of people sending me excited messages and here they come and all these kind of things. And then they don't. So do you really think that Scott Arniel is saying, hey guys, in the first, let's go out and play this system and lock up the Edmonton Oilers. And then in the second, let's do something completely different. And in the third, we'll get even more different. That's not what's happening. And so now you're going to tell me, well, it's about his ability to motivate the players. My goodness, if a guy took a team to the first ever President's Trophy and you are okay with the players tuning him out that quickly afterwards, I question what you value in players, because if they're ready to turn away from a guy who done that quickly, I'm just saying there's blame to be. And this is another one of those reasons, Ken, why it would have been helpful if Kevin Cheveldayoff would have been more upfront and talked about the issues of the team. It would have been easier for the fan base to kind of walk away from, well, hey, this is on me. I did this. I haven't been able to make some moves. I tried to make some moves. Hasn't happened. I don't have the assets. I'd like to make some moves. I'm in the market for it. If you know any GMs who want to make some moves, here we are. But until then, I haven't been able to do that to this point. And some of the moves that I've made have not had the results that we expected. And then we think we could get more from the coaching staff in this way, this way, this way, this way. And then when it comes to the players, we expect more from the players in this situation, right? If Kevin Cheveldayoff would have done that, I do think it would be easier. And I think right now, in the moment, lots of fans just want, like I said, it's that old meme where the guy's poking something with the stick and he's saying, do something. There's fans out there who are angry. They want the Winnipeg Jets to do something. And now the easiest thing for them to do is fire the coach. I think that that's misdirected. And I think that that sentiment is able to sit out there a little bit easier because there wasn't a GM who kind of took the bull by the horns in his halfway media availability and just kind of directed the blame to the places where they truly belong, in a whole bunch of different places within the organization, Ken.
Yeah, and I just think that it's an easy out and it's a cop out. We've talked about this a lot. Yes, of course, the coach takes responsibility when a team is going through 11 game stretch like this and has had a disappointing season. There's no doubt about that. It goes to the top, it goes to there, but we can't take the players off the hook either, Sean. And it's not about ripping the players, but the players, the same players that, yes, we know there have been changes and the replacements have not worked out to the same degree, but there hasn't been, nobody thought going into the summer that there would be 5 to 7 players that regress completely at the same time either. So we talk about accountability all the time. There's got to be accountability from all parties in this, and that extends to the players. And we know they're sour about it, but they got to do something about it because we know we've seen them play better. So it's incumbent upon them to also play better.
I just wanted to bring this up. Olaf Koister says this is like Keystone Cops. Players or coach or GM or owner who is accountable. I love taking on people who try and accuse us of waffling because this person is just clearly not paying attention. Listen, this question trying to boil it down to being like it's one person's fault is simplistic thinking. Expand your mind. To Ken's point, it can be the players, it can be the GM, it can be the coach, it can be everyone together. It can be an organizational failure. It can go up to the president of the team. But beyond that, I'm on record on this show saying if someone is most accountable for this, it's Kevin Cheveldayoff. He made moves at the beginning of the year that have created a roster that is not able to execute the game plan like it did last year. So don't accuse us of waffling. Don't accuse us of being Keystone Cops and all of this kind of stuff. We come out and we say these kind of things. And when we say these kind of things, we have to walk in and see these people the day after doing it. So if you're going to try and accuse us of not putting on an opinion or things like that, you clearly haven't been paying attention to the show. Speaking of opinion here, Ken, I'm going to go here before we get to our stuff. I wanted to talk about Connor Hellebuyck. So this is another sub 900 game here. This is now 10 straight losses for Connor Hellebuyck. And I hear it. You're going to see it in the chat room. People are already getting ready. They're getting the excuse machine going and saying, well, it's not Connor Hellebuyck's fault and all this kind of stuff. I would say this, Ken. Last year, everyone knows how I felt about the MVP vote. I know how everyone else felt. Winning the Hart Trophy. The Hart Trophy is the most prestigious individual award in the NHL. And I think there's a level of prestige that comes with winning that award that says something about that player, and it says something about the expectations of that player. And I would ask you this, Ken. Yeah, maybe it's not Connor Hellebuyck's fault. Maybe the team doesn't defend the same way in front of them. Is there any reigning Hart Trophy winning player in the NHL that would be putting up stat lines like Connor Hellebuyck, if you want to translate them to forward numbers or defense numbers or goaltender numbers? Is there anyone that would be there, or any player who is standing by and not putting that, hey, I'm taking this game over? Like, where's the Connor Hellebuyck wins? Where's the wow me saves by Connor Hellebuyck? Like, I'm telling you right now, if you win a Hart Trophy, you're a superstar. And the Connor Hellebuyck symbol has been thrown up into the sky, and it's been sitting there in Winnipeg now for 11 games, and it's gone unanswered.
Yeah, I mean, this is very simple. Again, I don't think he's at fault, but I also think he has, like we just said, it's everyone has to be better. That extends to Connor Hellebuyck. I mean, there's one game now in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One in the last 8 where his save percentage was 900. And again, we're not talking about the tap in goals, backdoor taps, all of these things. Those are accurate. Those things happen. He doesn't have a chance on those. But Sean, over the course of this season, Connor's save percentage at one point, I think, was around 930. Right now, it is 901. And the league average is around 900. So right now, Connor Hellebuyck is providing league average goaltending. And as we've been saying forever, Connor has provided elite level goaltending for the majority of the time he has been here. Right now, that's not happening. And again, a lot of it has to do with environment, yes, but Connor's got to be a little bit sharper. On the goal that happens from Podkolzin, yes, Kasperi Kapanen makes a nice drive behind the net, shows good speed. Some people mad at Dylan DeMello. Dylan DeMello ran Kapanen out of real estate, Sean. But Hellebuyck was looking the other way when the puck got in front to Podkolzin.
Yeah, he got tricked.
He got fooled. It was a great play by Kapanen. Instead of going around the net, he made a really good play, went back onto the forehand, got the puck in front. And again, Alex Iafallo is hustling to get back and back check against Podkolzin. But Podkolzin he overpowered him. The puck got to him. And because Hellebuyck was kind of looking behind the net, the puck got out in front and it beat him. I mean, again, I'm not saying it's a soft goal, but he wasn't as alert as we're used to seeing in that situation. So again, not pointing the finger at Hellebuyck, but he has not played at the level we're used to seeing. And again, no one's saying he has to put up 45 saves. Doesn't have to be 42 saves like the game in San Jose, but in this stretch, he has not been as sharp as we're used to seeing. And again, I have no evidence. I think he's come back strong from the knee issue, but the reality is he has not been playing at a Hart Trophy level right now.
No, and
or a Vezina Trophy level.
My point to this entire thing is we have a certain kind of expectation. If the Edmonton Oilers, and this is the thing I think is fascinating about that, because I've said this all the time, credit is very easily and quickly dumped on Connor Hellebuyck when things go right, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of blame that he would carry or his shouldering of it when things aren't going that way. And this is a perfect example. Mal Priest right off the bat here says 5 shots in 40 minutes, Hellebuyck's fault. Hey, I'm not saying that the team played good. I'd like to find the part of the podcast where I said that. But the other part of this isn't Connor Hellebuyck the guy that over and over again it was like, well, and then he just decided he was shutting the door. And that was it for the night on this. Like, the point of this is if the Edmonton Oilers had lost 11 straight games and Connor McDavid was not going and was not producing, there wouldn't be very many people out there who would say, well, it's not his fault they're not winning games. There would be a whole bunch of people saying there's an expectation to Connor McDavid to get going, and he needs to get going. And this team relies on him. And because they rely on him, it's his job to do things, and he needs to do those things for the Edmonton Oilers to go. There is no question with a player like him, a guy like David Pastrnak in Boston, go all around the league. If those teams were not winning and that player was not producing stats, they would carry the blame. And I find it fascinating here that the excuse machine every single time for a Hart Trophy goaltender and a Vezina Trophy goaltender who, like you said, Ken, has won over 900 performance in his last 7 games and has lost 10 straight games, is constantly people lining up and cranking up the excuse machine rather than saying, you know what? If he's a Hart Trophy winner, he should be making a difference that he's not making right now. I'll never understand why that expectation does not exist there with so many people in the fan base. Anyways, that's a long way or a round way of looking into those kind of things. Just like Myers Drugs has you covered all around the city of Winnipeg, all your pharmaceutical needs, all your health food needs, all your supplement needs. And as we know, they deliver anywhere around the city of Winnipeg. So give them a call and they'll take care of you. You don't even have to hop off your couch to get it taken care of. All right, Ken, Johnston Group got you covered play of the game. What do you got?
A couple great examples. I'm going to go with the Logan Stanley shot block on the Leon Draisaitl one-timer on the power play as my choice, but there were several candidates within the game itself.
I'll go with it. That's a good enough one for me. And the winner, Ken, of the Johnston Group got you covered play of the game. And hey, do you run a small business in Canada? Look to Canada's #1 employee benefits plan, Chambers Plan, to give you a competitive edge. Chambers Plan is the simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. Visit chamberplan.ca to learn more. And I just wanted to pick something up here. Alex99, his version of the excuse machine, says, Sean, the Hart and Vezina winner was last year, not this year, which means once you win one of those awards, you can, like Homer Simpson, fade away back into the hedges after that. And there will be no expectations on you once you've had that award. Great thinking on this one, Alex99. That brings us to our hashtag the keg save of the game. What do you got, Ken?
Yeah, you got a good one, and I'm going to go with we talked a lot about Jack Roslovic being a threat as the trailer on the McDavid goal, and Connor Hellebuyck made a really smart save on Roslovic in a high slot one timer, and I believe it was in the second period. So I'm going with that one. I know you have one that you liked better.
There was and I don't know if
It's the
actually,
stick, Bouchard.
Yeah, Bouchard gets in and he fires one top corner that's going in. It hits the knob of Connor Hellebuyck's stick. I'll give him the credit on that one. And let me be clear here, because I know I hurt feelings when I expect things out of Connor Hellebuyck, and I know that people are bothered by that. I thought he won the Sean Reynolds Award tonight. I thought he was the better of the two goaltenders in this game. And so that's why I'm going to give him the hashtag the keg save of the game. Doesn't matter what I think, though. Doesn't matter what Ken thinks. It matters what you think. Share with us your hashtag the keg save of the game. You are automatically entered to win a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the three fine keg locations here, there, here. I'm here in the city of Winnipeg, Ken. Each location finer than the last. And the winner from our last show, that would be Gift Guy. You know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Gift Guy hasn't even got the last one that he won. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name. Send me an email. I'll have the fine folks at the keg send you a gift certificate usable at any of the three fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. Ken, anything to say before we get rolling?
Yeah, quick hit. Danny Jolkin was on the ice for a even strength goal by Tanner Pearson today. 10 shifts for 655. He had 2 shot attempts, 1 out of 2 in the faceoff circle. Like the speed component in his game, very good awareness. He did get 1 shift against Connor McDavid. Sean, he spoke about it in the morning. He said it was pretty cool to get to go up against McDavid in his first game. Scott O'Neill obviously would have liked to gotten him a little bit more ice time, but when you're in a matchup game against 2 of the best players in the world, sometimes you don't lean all that heavily on the fourth line center making his NHL debut. But he did confirm that Jilkin would be in the lineup on Friday against the LA Kings.
He did, yes.
And one of the things for Jilkin, Sean, that is an advantage. He plays a bunch of back-to-backs. So with only 10 shifts, yes, of course, he was fired up for the game. First NHL game, you're always going to be jazzed for. Loved the enthusiasm and emotion he showed in the morning. And I think his barber released the Instagram video of actually when the call happened and he started crying with tears of joy. I think that he'll be well equipped to get into the game and play a back-to-back because he's had to do it a bunch of times over the course of his AHL career so far. Again, I'm not sure how long the leash is going to be, but I would advocate for more of Danny Jilkin, Sean. And that applies also to Cole Koepke, who I thought was able to generate a little bit today, get involved in the forecheck and a lot of those other things. And then lastly, I thought Taves had another strong game, 3 shots on net. He's starting to settle in to looking a little bit more like himself, playing the game instinctually, as we've mentioned. And again, I'll be curious. I mean, I was on with Tommy Gazzola pregame show today. He had one of his listeners was curious if he thought maybe Taves could be a fit for the fourth line center job with the Oilers before the deadline. Now, that would be an interesting situation if the Jets don't get things going and if Taves, again, he came back to try to win a championship. He thought he could do it here, see how the next month goes. Obviously, he expressed his belief in the morning. But, Sean, you remember this. On my one and only chance on Hockey Night in Canada, when Ron McLean asked me what I thought about Taves, I thought the Oilers 2.5 years ago were a good fit for Taves, given his pedigree and championship pedigree and them wanting to get over the top. So yeah. I would think that would still apply now, even at 37 years old and after a bit of a tough start on certain points to the season.
He's played good. There's another level of the playoffs that I would need to see a lot more from him to feel like he was going to, as that game raised, be someone that I would be going to play that role that you're talking about.
No, and he's got to do it for a longer stretch. But I mean, right now, I would see him as to me, he's a better candidate than Adam Henrique or Curtis Lazar in that job right now.
Yep.
If he can do it for an extended period of time.
It would be an upgrade. There's going to be some other things out there, but again, I still don't look at Jonathan Toews and say we've defined what he's capable of. And I definitely don't think we've seen enough from him to say, okay, he's going to be the playoff beast that we were talking about. That, to your point, he's going to need to be traveling a lot further down the runway before he would get to a point like that. Anyways, that's it for Ken and I. We're out of here. I'm off to, I won't, I'll be on the show tomorrow, but I'll be on the show from Ottawa.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, anytime, Ken. You're welcome back anytime. So we'll be handling that tomorrow. If you appreciate the conversations happening in this space, I would say we hope that you appreciate contributions by our sponsors who fight to keep the conversation going in this space. For us, that's Jim Pattison Toyota on Regent, Vittorio Rossi, Flame and Comfort, Cameron Credit Union, Pristine Roofing, Sweet Lou Furlan, Myers Drugs, Johnston Group, the Kenny and Renny OGs, and of course the fine folks at the Keg. Thank you to them. Thank you to all of you. And just before I do go, Mal Paris, make sure you turn off the excuse machine before you go to bed, because your house could be papered over if you don't get that off before you go to bed. So all the best, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.